Hey, hi, good afternoon. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces here. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Sansan Borja. I'm an English teacher at the Ateneo de Manila Senior High School. So, this is my experience that I would just like to share with you. It's nothing like there's nothing scientific about it. There's no approach that's highlighted in this particular topic. It's really just a sharing of a practice that I have been doing all these years and have found very life-giving, and that's why I want to share it. So um, I don't remember when I started doing journaling. When I say journaling, it's not journaling personally. You keep your journals. It's asking your students to keep journals. And the earliest memory I have of my journals with the students is circa 1992, 93. At least that's as far back as I remember. So that's going to date me already. Baka meron dito hindi pa pinanganak noong time na yon. Pero yun yung naaalala ko kasi may naaalala akong bata na particular journal nung batang yon. And that person is already a philosophy teacher at the Ateneo de Manila LS. So yun yung kaya ko na date back to that particular school year. I started this practice with only one purpose. It's just really just to get to know my students more. I didn't always start with the high school. I spent most of my years in the Ateneo de Manila grade school. And usually you're given like 3 sections per year. And that's like 80 to 120 students. So there's no way you can get to know all those kids if you will just rely on the usual class discussions and the interactions that happen in class. So I thought of, okay, why not ask them to share of themselves in a weekly journal so that they could just like share their thoughts and their stories with me or whatever they would like to share with me for that particular it was a weekly journal, so parang 1 week they submit their journals once a week. Ang peg nun, dahil English yung tinuturo ko, is for them to practice their writing skills. So it starts off as that. Parang they just practice writing in English, and then they share their days with me, their weeks experiences with me. But of recent iterations, I don't even ask them to write in English anymore. Bahala na sila kung anong language yung gagamitin nila. So in physical journaling, sige, baka sakasakaling bumalik na tayo doon later on. So that's where I started, physical journaling. So notebook talaga. I asked them to have a notebook. Any notebook, sinasabi ko nga noon, yung notebook nyo last school year na hindi nyo naubos, yun ang gamitin ninyo para hindi sayang. So recycled notebooks that they could use for their journal. Later on, naisipan ko yung Katleya, yung filler, kasi manipis. Kasi di ba kinokolekta mo yan? Kinokolekta ko yan every week. So pag yung notebook talaga, tapos 40, di ba? Parang ang bigat pagdalhin mula classroom hanggang workroom. So sabi ko, sige, Katleya para hindi masyado, or yung filler, para hindi masyado mabigat, tapos manipis lang. So ayun, have a notebook. And then every week I would give them, simple lang, I'd give them a prompt to answer. Minsan, parang nung sa grade school pa, yung mga embarrassing experience, yung mga ganon, or may diniscuss kami sa klase, and then I want them to reflect some more on that and then give their own reflections on that. So they would parang kunyari, what do you think about the character that in the story that we read? Did he do the writing? Yung mga ganon. So yun yung mga sinasagot nila. Pag walang prompt, kahit na simpleng how are you? How are you? How are you this week? Or something like that. So yun. So every week there's a prompt to answer for them. nakalagay siya sa homework board para alam nila na sasagutan nila yon. And then, okay, and then so I collect the journals once a week. What worked for me was usually Mondays or Fridays. Fridays because you have the weekend to read through them. Mondays, para pwede mo i-pacing siya for the whole week, yung pag-check mo. So yun, so syempre pag-collect mo, ito na yung pinakamahirap na part nitong journaling na to. The reading and the responding. Kasi yun naman talaga yung purpose ko, di ba? Is to get to know my students better. So it's not simply just reading eh. Sinasabi ko nga parang hindi pa nauso yung social media. Sanay na akong makinig sa mga nagra-rant, sa mga revelations ng mga bata. Kasi sa journal, yun talaga yung ginagawa nila. I really don't mind saying that this is easily my most favorite checkable of the week. Kasi babasahin mo lang eh kung ano yung mga chinare nila that week. And it's very de-stressing and relaxing for me. Kasi naman may mga problema na mga grade 6, di ba? Parang wala naman masyado. So parang nag-share lang talaga sila ng kwento. So as time passed, yun, sasagot ka dun sa mga sinusulat nila. Hindi naman nakakapagod kasi syempre, lalo na pag maikli lang, ang usual, the cliche answer is, thank you for sharing your stories with me. Parang, I hope you have a great week ahead, mga ganun. So, iba-ibahin mo lang ng konti para hindi naman nila sabihin na para pareho lang yung sinasabi mo. So, yun. So, ayan, pakitaan ko kayo ng sample. May mga nahanap ako ng mga nag-iwan sa akin ng mga journals nila. So, these are 2 examples. Ayan, circa 2007. So, grade 7 itong mga to, nung sinulat. So, nakikita nyo dyan sa sample ko, di ba? Medyo mahaba sila magsulat. And I think this is why I kept on doing this practice. Kasi I realized students really they need a place to just talk to someone. So yung mga talagang kailangan ng kausap, malalaman mo kung sino talaga. Kasi sa punuan yung pagdating doon sa pages sa journal. So, ayan, yung dito sa kanan, di ba? Tinan niyo naman yung topic, di ba? My new badminton racket. So, ganun lang, kasimple. Tapos, kwento-kwento, ganyan. Tapos, sasagot. Ayun, yung nasa gitna, yun yung reply ko. So, when I reply, I also put a question at the end para nagiging continuous yung conversation. Yun. So, don't worry kasi hindi naman lahat ganito kadami magsulat kasi medyo mabigat nga yan kung lahat sila madami. Pero natutuwa din ako pag maraming mahahaba kasi ibig sabihin they're into the practice and the journaling. So, pinapantayan ko lang din. Yan, ito yung nasa kaliwa, medyo mahaba. Mahaba din yung sagot ko dyan kasi marami siyang nasabi. Kasi papantayan ko lang din yung effort nila sa pagsulat nila ng journals. So, it keeps me in touch with where they are in their lives, gives me an added understanding kung ano yung mga pinagdadaanan nila so that, in their academics, ay intindihan ko pag medyo hindi masyadong maganda din. Baka may nangyayari sa bahay and they usually share what they have going on in their lives, in their journals. So I even remember I'd accompanied one of my students. His whole journey that school year was his mom was diagnosed with cancer. And so yun, dun yung sinusulat kasi, it's 13 years old. How do you deal with that situation? And you're 13 years old. So part of it, he put in his journal. So at that time, parang ikaw, nandun ka lang para alalay to provide comfort and strength in any way I could sa pinagdadaanan niya. And I think this is where it's really the effort to respond is the most crucial part of this practice. Kasi umaasa sila dun sa response mo. So kaya nga nilagay ko dito, it's not for the faint of heart. nor for the half-hearted. Kailangan buong-buo talaga kayo if you choose to do this because it takes a lot of time and commitment. Siguro sa pag-check, sa isang section lang, mga 2-3 oras sa kakabasa lang dung mga sinusulat nila. Later on, I'll share with you paano ko nagawa online. So you really make an effort to respond. And that's where I think the Cura Personalis part comes in. You have to really care for the whole person. So hindi ko naman sinasabi noon na Cura Personalis to. Parang later on ko na lang napag-connect na, oo nga pala. Parang yun yung pinaka-care na nakita nila from me that I am interested in their lives and I'm interested in what's going on with them. Not just their performance in class, but yun, kung ano yung pagkatao talaga nila. I was talking with a former student of mine who is now a Jesuit. Ano ba si Bien? Scholastic pa ba siya o priest na? He shared with me how St. Ignatius himself kept journals. Tapos si Ignatius daw, sobrang OC pa yan. Parang iba-iba yung ink niya. Depende sa kung sino yung kaninong espiritu yung nararamdaman niya or ano. So, pero ang naisip ko doon, di ba? Pag si Ignatius, nag-journal siya, ang kausap niya si God. So, medyo wala naman tayo sa ganong spiritual level. Kasi I'm sure sumasagot si God sa kanya. So, ang naisip ko na lang, parang ito, tayo yung voice ni God for our students na sumusulat sila kasi si God hindi naman yan sasagot like for them, di ba? Parang baka hindi pa nila makuha. So, kailangan may sumagot for God and in the meantime, siguro tayo yon yung pwedeng sumagot for that. So, speaking of that, later on, nag-add ako ng feature na tinawag kong God's Love Moment. Para naman hindi masyado mundane parate yung sinusulat nila sa journals nila. It's simply answering the question, how did you experience God in your week? So, ano yan? Pag ano na yan, parang yun yung catchphrase nila. Parang, anong God's love mo for this week? Parang ganun. So, the Jesuit maxim is finding God in all things. So, they're trained to see God in the simple things that they'd write about ano yung ulam nila, masarap yung ulam nila that night, or hindi umulan, nakapag-intram sila, or pumasa sila sa quiz ng 1 point, yung mga ganon. So, yung mga sinusulat lang nila. Minsan, it's the people they meet, grade 7, grade 6, nagsisimula na yan, mag-soiree, ganyan. So, may mga ganon nang sinishare. And then, of course, the significant experiences. So, for grade 7, yun yung nag-entrance test sila sa mga high schools. So, significant yun for them. So yun, God's love moment. So parang they talk about their day and then may pahabol na. How did you see God in your week? So how did I do it in the online setup? So actually, nagdalawang isip pa ako paano ko gagawin kasi parang sobrang hassle, di ba? Paano mo gagawin? Nagkataon last year, I'm a subject area coordinator. I don't necessarily have classes, but last year because of the pandemic and the difficulty to get teachers, I had 3 classes. So sabi ko, nako, 3 klase to, so medyo challenging. But it was like 2-1. So I'll just share with you how I thought to do it. I don't even know if this is the best possible way of doing it. It's how it worked for me. So yun. So we used the Google Classroom in the senior high school. So sige, I'll just go back to this slide. I'll show you the next slide because this is how it's do it. So when you have a Google Classroom, dun sa classwork part, there's a class drive folder. So that's where I put, kulang to ng isang picture. That's where I put the folder called Keeping in Touch. So ang shortcut niyan, KIT. So when I remind them, please do your kits over the weekend, yung mga ganyan. So it's just keeping in touch over the ano. And looking back now, hindi ko talaga pinagsisihan na tinuloy ko last year kasi sobrang mas kinailangan talaga nila ng ganito last year. Kasi feeling ko rin baka hindi nila kagatin kasi sa dinami-dami ng nangyayari, di ba? But it really turned out that they needed it more last year because when the world turned topsy-turvy on them, they really struggled to make sense of it. So they turned to writing their thoughts down. Oh, by the way, grade 12 na to, so nasa senior high na ako. So because they're grade 12, medyo mas mature, the entries are much heavier now. So hindi siya grade 6 concerns na. Tapos hindi na siya 1992, 2021 na. Iba na rin ang mundo. Iba na rin yung concerns, iba na yung problema, more complicated. Their confusion and frustration were very real. So the online journals were an outlet to vent. And on my end, siguro a venue to affirm, console, and sometimes guide kung ano yung mga nangyayari. So, ito na nga yun. So, yun yung keeping in touch. So, pag clinic ko yung keeping in touch, lalabas yung lahat sila may folder na sarili. Kasi syempre journal yan, very private. Hindi pwede makita ng buong klase. So, because it's very private, each folder is only accessible to that student and me. So, individually, ito lang medyo hassle din. You have to share with them their link individually. So, I do it through Google Chat. Inaano ko talaga sila, mini-message ko sila individually to send their links to their own folders. So, kaming dalawa lang ang may access dun sa folder, dyan sa folder na yan. So, what do they do with their folders? Every week, they upload. So, yan, kiklik lang nila yung new, tapos mag-upload sila ng file nila for that particular week. So, if you look at this picture on the right, ito, isang bata lang to. Ang setup namin sa senior high school, 8 weeks lang namin sila kasama for a course. So sa 8 weeks na yon, so 8 din. 8 din na ano. Kaya lang, sa second sem, may kita ko sila ulit. So parang nangyari ba nga 16 entries per student. So this particular student, medyo masipag, tsaka grabe siya magsulat. As in, she really made the most of the online journals. So very creative. Google form lang to. Yung iba, ayaw nila mas gusto nila yung desulat kamay pa rin. So nagsusulat kamay sila sa isang journal na notebook. Tapos isi-screenshot pa nila. Tapos i-upload nila. So it doesn't matter really how, but they still shared. So parang very enlightening for me na yung mga bata talaga naghahanap ng kausap. At naghahanap ng adult na kausap na makakapag-share sa kanila about or respond to them for whatever things that they share. So for some, they're very problema talaga. For some, wala. Yung meron ako isang estudyante, nag-share lang siya ng favorite book niya every week. Kung ano yung binabasa niya every week. So, tapos yung games that they play, yung mga ganun. So, ito yung ayan. This is how it looks like. I'm sure she doesn't mind naman if I share this kasi bandang wala namang pangalan to. So, she was talking about, ayan, it has always been a dream of mine to migrate, blah, blah, blah. Kasi big dreams talaga yung bata. And to help, parang she wants to be a doctor, ganyan. So, ayan, ganito lang ako sumagot, parang Google form, Google Doc pala. So, i-highlight mo lang tapos sasagot ka kung ano yung so I thought it would take a shorter time for me to reply, but turns out hindi rin pala kasi isa-isahin mo pa rin di ba? And it was a connection to the students. In the 8 weeks, it was my little contribution to making them feel that the world was still normal. And these online journals could provide that safe space, I guess, that they needed during that time. And because they were older, there was the bonus of them actually just needing to write things out. Hindi naman sila humihingi ng advice Susulat lang nila. Nakakatawa minsan, susulat sila. Sa simula, may problema sila. Pagdating dun sa dulo, na-solve na nila. They discovered that they had the answers to their own questions within them all along. And they just needed to write it out. And I got to see how their thinking processes were and how it had matured to a point na sila na mismo yung nakakasolve sa mga sarili nilang problema. So to recap, here's what you need if you really want to pursue this. Number one talaga is the openness. You really have to want to know to get to know your students better. Kung hindi kaya ng maraming klase, siguro yung advisory class or yung moderating class niya lang. Kasi sila naman talaga yung kailangan yung makilala. Or pwede rin 10 a week, ganun lang. You don't collect everyone's in a week. And then commit to checking the journals ASAP talaga. Kasi ilang beses na to nangyari sa akin. Meron palang tinanong dun sa journal. Tapos medyo busy, ganyan, di mo na-check. May tinanong na kailangan na sana ng sagot. Tapos 2 weeks later mo pa nasagot. Tapos na. Parang wala nang, hindi na nila magagamit yung sagot mo. So, kung pwedeng ma-check talaga ng ASAP, check it right away and then give it back to them right away. Third is just to reply from the heart. Kasi yun nga, they just need someone to talk to. So, hindi naman to writing exercise. You don't have to check their grammar or their sentence construction. Basta, kung ano yung nararamdaman mo, yun lang din yung isulat mo. And they just try to understand what they're trying to say. Tapos yung sa confidentiality, ito medyo tricky na to ngayon. Kasi nga, sometimes, yes, of course, you have to keep the entries confidential. Because that's their sharing with you. But times like this, you have to also exercise correct judgment. Like there are times when if you feel the student is at risk and about to self-harm or do something harmful to themselves, the law actually requires us to divulge right away to the admin, di ba? Para malaman ko ano talaga yung pwedeng gawin. And if you're not sure, it's best to check with your closest supervisor or a guidance counselor who can perhaps guide you better. Pero only to the extreme, pero yung the usual yun, dapat confidential yun. And then of course, with that is you take care of the trust that they put in you. So I'm saying this because it can also be, if it's not done properly, it can also be an occasion of crossing boundaries. And that's not supposed to be the case. Parang they don't need somebody to save them. They don't need a best friend. They just need somebody who listens to them. So, yun lang, keep your boundaries, be careful kasi you can easily cross to a dangerous territory if you're also not careful. So, yun lang. So, given all this, it's really been a very life-giving exercise for me. That's why I really thought to share it here in the ADL Learning Exchange in the more than 25 years na I've been doing it. I only have good memories, and the nice thing about it is that some of my students who kept these journals are lifelong friends. Some of them, up to now, keep in touch kasi nga sanay sila. And they know that, parang yung the level of the trust that was put during that time, ganun pa rin yung communication namin sa isa't isa. And that's the best return of investment in this kind of practice, I think. And that's why I thought to share it here. So yun lang. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I'll stop sharing now. Oh, this is just the sample of my students. Yan, getting to know them one journal at a time. Okay, stop sharing there. Ay, ngayon ko lang nakikita yung mga questions. Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much to Ma'am Rosanna, and now the floor is open for questions. You can unmute yourself or send it over to the chat, and then I can read it to Ma'am for you.
Sige, basahin ko lang tong question ni Jervy. For me, yes, that's true. Thank you for your question, Jervy. Kasi for the longest time, sanay ako sa boys. It was all boys point of view. So ang atake ko rin is, and then suddenly I'm put in the senior high school and now there are girls. So iba rin ang experience pag girls ang nagsulat. Unang-una, mas magaling sila magsulat. And mas masipag sila magsulat and minsan talagang mas may sense sila magsulat. So ang kitang-kita mo rin yung difference nung concerns din ng boys and girls. And actually I learned a lot from the girls. Ayan, marami akong friends dito. Ilang beses ko sinabi noon na hindi ko kaya magturo ng babae, pero sila ang nagturo sa akin actually. the girls were the ones who taught me. They didn't hesitate on, kasi yung unang co-ed class ko medyo problematic. Ito yung first batch namin na we were learning the ropes, and there were a lot of issues between, whatever, yung gender-based issues at that time, and they did not mince any words. Sinusulat talaga nila doon kung ano yung nararamdaman nila, pag feeling nila na o-objectify sila or ano. So ganon kalalim. And it was a venue also for me to get to understand them better, kasi nga hindi talaga ako sanay lang siguro. Ang nakatulong sa akin, may anak akong babae. So dun lang ako nanggagaling na kaya ko sila naiintindihan. Pero ayun, yun yung experience with the girls.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Jervs. Buti may mga grade school dito. Kasi nagagawa to sa grade school. Nakakatuwa nga yung mga grade schools. Kanilang mga sinusulat. They're very pure and innocent. Pero yun na nga, parang feeling ko, iba na rin yung context ngayon. So baka it's not going to be as easy as my students of before. Baka ngayon, iba na rin yung mga concerns nila. Pero I think no matter how much time has passed, ganun pa rin yung need. Kailangan nila ng kausap. And ito yun, isa to sa pwede natin gawin for them.